Well, welcome back. 9:13 is your time, and with record viewership and growing revenue, women's sports are getting more popular by this season, but it took us long enough to catch on. The history of women's soccer goes back more than 100 years, and local author Heidi Smith is now out with a new book, Play On from Adversity to Advantage through 140 years of women's soccer. We have her here in the studio with more on why now is the right time to write this book. And Heidi, thank you so much for coming on. You are from Olympia, you live in Yelm, you have 27 years of soccer experience. What was it like researching this and putting it together?
It's been quite a process. I actually started this book 9 years ago, and when I began it, I could not have foreseen where we would get to now. As you said, we're just in this explosion of interest and investment and media coverage of the women's game. Yeah, things have just been changing on the ground in real time as I wrote this, so it's been quite a process.
What made you want to write the book in the first place? And then, not to give you a two-part question, but it must have been so interesting to be researching that and then watching it change as you're writing it.
So really two things. I'm a former history teacher, and when I went, so I have an interest in the sport as a former player, former coach. When I went looking for this history, it really didn't exist other than kind of in YA form, and I wanted it to be there for everyone like me who has a passion for the game and an interest, and so I just kind of combined those two passions and created this.
So your first words in the book reference a Nike commercial that showed
Yes.
women's soccer as a physical sport, not just girls running around in little pigtails looking cute. Why was that such an impactful moment for you?
I think because I'd never seen it before, and like for me, you remember when the first Wonder Woman came out and
Yes.
you had these women that were like crying in the theater and saying, yes, finally, that was that moment for me, because historically the media has really covered women's soccer either through ridicule, if we go way back, or through like objectification and sexualization. Even as recently as the 1999ers, the #1 word used to describe that team was babe. And then the second most common phrase used to describe them was the girls next door, which was to kind of make them more approachable and accessible, but also to sort of diminish them and minimize them into a box that we could be comfortable with. Not that they could be comfortable with, but that kind of the general public could. So there had just never been this real celebration of women's soccer players and in their full power. So it hit.
And so in talking about the history of it with you right now, I mean, a lot of it isn't shiny. It doesn't look good. Why take that angle for this book?
A couple of reasons. One is just that the moment that we're in that you just referenced, we didn't just get here. It took so much work on the part of thousands of women, both worldwide and in this country. And I think it's important to recognize that history. But also, like, the issues I'm covering are not confined to women's soccer. So any woman in a male-dominated sphere has probably experienced these same issues, and the fact that they've been able to accomplish this much in this sport is really a template for what women can achieve in other arenas, and I hope that people read it that way.
In the book, you talk about an attribution gap. Can you talk about that a little bit? What is it? Why is it important?
Sure. The attribution gap is basically the stories that we tell ourselves when we succeed and fail. And they can be internal, like I succeeded because I'm intelligent and talented, or they can be external, so my boss just likes me, or I'm just lucky. And what's really important is that generally, I'm generalizing, but men tend to attribute their successes to internal factors and their failures to external factors, and with women it's the other way around. And this can be a real issue when it comes to just promotions, raises, but within the women's game specifically, it's related to coaching, and we have a real lack of women coaches at the elite level because in many cases they're not putting themselves forward to even apply.
That is really interesting. And then so often we treat women's sports the same as men's. You talk about in this book that we should not be doing that. Can you go into that a little bit more?
I think women just bring a whole different sensibility to the game, and we really see that like in investment models. Angel City FC, that's a whole lot of former players, not even in just women's soccer, but we've got like Natalie Portman in the investment group. We're seeing just different ways of approaching the game that I think will change the game for the better.
Mm-hmm. Any main takeaways you want people to have as they read this book, Play On?
I hope that for all the women and girls that are involved in the game, and then also the men and boys who love and support it as well, because there are plenty of those, that they just understand that they're part of this real history of women who have fought to make this better and leave it in a better place. And because of them, we've arrived. That's an overstatement, but it's because of them we're in the moment that we're in now. And I hope it inspires them to continue that legacy.
Well, Heidi, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about this. Where can we find it if we want to read this book?
Thank you. It is currently really available on Amazon, coming soon to bookstores near you, but not quite arrived yet.
Yes. Okay, Heidi Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back with more news and weather.